Alright, today I want to talk about the topic of separation distance when it comes to SAR testing. And I've been putting on my YouTube channel a lot about the US FCC rules, but today I'm going to give a little love to Canada and RSS-102 to explain the topic of separation distance. And it's not because I grew up here, but it's because I'm here in beautiful Vancouver today with my family this August, visiting Joffrey Lakes. And speaking of Canada, in case you missed it, the RSS-102 revamp for issue 6 is closing in September. And when I worked with the TCB, a lot of questions that I got asked by manufacturers was, what separation distance do I test for SAR? And what separation goes in the user's manual? And why are all these distances different for different manufacturers? So today we're going to get right into that.
Alright, so according to RSS-102, the separation distance is the minimum distance between the device under test and the nearest surface of the exposure region of a user or bystander. And this is based on the specific user experience, user exposure condition. So what's an exposure condition? To understand this, you need to sit down and think about all the ways a person might interact with the device. For example, for a smartphone, the main purpose is talking with the phone held to the ear. But then another usage, really popular, if not more, is predominantly used in the hand, or some texts say extremity or limb. But the most confusing exposure condition to understand the correct test distance is the body-worn accessory. So I'll speak mainly to this and also to some new regulations about hand exposure. One of my first few favorite phones was the Motorola StarTAC and Samsung Blackjack 2. Back in the day, it was popular to carry these big phones on your belt, hence body-worn accessory. And arguably, these FCC rules were relevant and created more so in the past when both the OEM manufacturers made belt clips, in addition to third-party companies doing that. But nowadays, phones are so slim, most people put it in their pocket if they talk with their Bluetooth headset or wired earbuds. But in any case, if you ever read your user's manual, every manufacturer warns the end user of the potential danger of using it too close to your body when you're in a constant transmitting mode like a voice or video call. And the manual warns the end user to use a body-worn accessory in a separation distance from the body in the scenarios. Not to say it'll always fail the SAR limits in that condition, but it's just saying putting a gap with a belt clip between you and the back of the device will guarantee it will never exceed the federal limits for the torso at that separation distance. So now, what exactly does body-worn mean today? The new RSS-102 issue 6, section 5.4 is going to say body-worn accessories shall be attached against the flat phantom in normal use conditions. And issue 6 goes on to explain requirements if your product supplies body-worn accessories in the box you get from the store or not. And lastly, if accessories aren't provided in the box, then a separation distance no farther than 10 millimeters is needed to be tested for SAR. And note, this is a change from the 2015 version in issue 5 that allowed up to 15 millimeters. And a side note, the FCC KDB still allows for up to 25 millimeters. So anyways, what does this mean for products out there once issue 6 goes into force? Usually the Canadian government requires all products being sold in the market to comply, which means those that comply with issue 5 aren't grandfathered to issue 6. And products still being sold need to be modified to comply with issue 6 requirements. But for those who have been following the trends of SAR compliance, there's already been writings on the wall on this, and it wasn't going to last forever. So in a nutshell, for smartphones, separation distances vary for different smartphones out there. because of a combination of RF exposure compliance and available belt clips for the product. So the other exposure condition that applies to smartphones is held to ear. So unlike body-worn accessory, the phone's held to the ear directly at 0 millimeters. So that's pretty straightforward, so I'll skip over that exposure condition. So the third exposure condition smartphones require is the hand or extremity or limb or phablet. And they all mean the same compliance requirement, which is 4 watts per kilogram, which is the FCC limit and the ISED limit according to Part 1, 1310C in the FCC rules, which refers to limits back in C95-1, 1992. And this limit is a level averaged over 10 grams. And as an advanced heads up for those dealing with smartphones or phones, there's a new requirement to ensure hand exposure complies to when it's held to the person's head, so the hand and the head together. So the past 20 years, the test standards and test labs only considered head exposure, which is really important. But nowadays, attention is given to the hand holding the phones to the head because of instances in newer 4G, 5G chipset technologies where higher level of powers are being allowed to be generated out of antennas, for example, at the bottom of the phone, since it maximizes performance during voice calls while keeping the brain safe from RF energy. But the issue is the hand still holds the phones in those conditions, and starting with the Canadian government, they're requiring manufacturers to implement limitations to ensure there's a mechanism to ensure both the head and the hand exposure complies. So RSS-102 issue 6 is going to have a special section in section 5.10 that will require additional SAR measurements for this on the hand. Now, RSS-102 issue 6 will have a section in 561 specifically addressing foldable phones. And the Canadian government clearly makes its position distinct from the US when it comes to folding phones with a diagonal dimension of less than 20 centimeters. And how does it differ? The United States calls these products UMPC dual display devices. And I remember meeting with FCC in person where they developed this a long time ago for small handheld devices. I remember we brought a product that was the size of like a little smaller than like a little Nintendo Switch. And they basically allowed a touching hand SAR test and additionally requiring a 1 centimeter air gap test in case a person might be putting it near their body or something like that. But it was a huge gain for manufacturers because the hand SAR is a lot easier to comply at 0 millimeter. And having a 10 millimeter gap for the 10 gram SAR helped a lot since SAR levels exponentially decrease with SAR distance. But now with the 5 millimeter Canadian requirement for 1 gram SAR governing folding devices, it forces manufacturers that want to sell to the US and Canada for the same product for the need to create power profiles when on a Canadian network, which is different from the power profile roaming in the United States. Same product, different regulations, different separation distance in the SAR report. Well, at least helps those manufacturers who want sort of an edge on their performance when used by Americans. So the easy one that both the American and Canadian governments agree on are large tablets, meaning when the diagonal dimensions are over 20 centimeters. And this means that it's agreed that when tablets are large, most likely those tablets will be rested on a person's body. So 0 millimeter SAR testing is required. And sometimes manufacturers may implement capacitive sensors on the antennas that differentiate when a product is touching a hand or body versus when a tablet's on a tabletop. For example, when streaming shows or watching movies. In those cases, there's a distance once a human pulls away from the antenna releases the power back off, so high power kicks in when it's safe to do so. And those kinds of technologies, a touching distance is tested at the reduced safe power. And another separation distance is tested at the distance designed by the manufacturer that they determine safe to operate at max power, which could be several millimeters, again because the SAR exponentially drops the distance. And in summary, today the user's manual for portable devices show a RF safety warning with a separation distance for the purpose of body-worn accessory compliance. Otherwise, if the product complies touching, or if it's a handheld or it's a tablet device, they don't need to be mentioned in the user's manual. Some folding devices might require a warning if it supports body-worn accessories to comply with a voice call mode. And the different separation distance requirements are held to the ear, which is 0 millimeters, body-worn accessory, which could be up to 10 millimeters for Canada, up to 25 millimeters for the United States. And they both require user's manual warning. Hotspot, the requirement testing is 10 millimeters. Hand, it has to be touching for screens greater than 15 centimeters diagonal. And for folding devices, fold open when it's less than 20 centimeters diagonal. And for Canada, it requires 5 millimeters, 1 gram SAR. Or in the US, you can do that, or a 10 millimeter, 1 gram SAR in conjunction with a 0 millimeter, 10 gram SAR. And so this was a long one, but I hope everyone can use the chapters as a reference that applies for the different products that are of interest to you. And definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn or YouTube if you want a free consultation or just to confirm your own understanding about these separation distance requirements. And if you like this video, please like and subscribe for more videos. So until next time.